Hi guys, welcome to my first video in what seems like forever. But today I decided I was going to do a Christmas themed explosion memory box. It's a design that I did a number of years ago actually. First cut them by hand and then kind of perfected it on Design Space. So it now cuts in the Cricut on 12 by 12 cardstock. And I'm going to show you how I put my one together. So obviously I've cut everything out already, so you don't have to watch that. I've already started folding all the bits, as you can see. I've also been round and inked the edges, if you can see that there as well. And all I do to ink the edges, I use Distress Stain sponge that I cut up, dab it on, and then I just go around the edges like that, just dabbing it on around the edges, and that gives the distressed edges, it all hides all the white. And I've done all the bits that I can do so far. Like I say, folded them all up. Ready to start putting it together. Now you'll see here, this is the three main parts, and I've cut them in kind of contrasting colours. So that's the inside that you would see, and that's the outside parts that you would see. So it's important to use double-sided cardstock, unless you're doing it plain. I've used a Christmas theme one, as I said, because it's going to be a Christmas box. So I'm going to set these to the side just now. And I'm going to show you a couple of little bits that you would need to know to put these together. So you'll see you've got a lot of these, they're actually frames, and they're made up of two parts. They should be quite obvious which one's which, because they're different, completely different sizes. But essentially, you've got this U-shaped bit that sits on the back, and then the frame sits on the top. And you glue that on there. And the reason for that is to allow you to easily slide a photograph in behind. Otherwise, it would maybe, you know, when you try to slide a photograph in, it would pop off, and it just makes it a lot easier. So all I do to glue it, and I'm going to show you how I glue it, because I use glue sticks, which I find is a lot cleaner. It doesn't warp or anything. If you use a white glue, it might wrinkle the card. You could use Collall glue, but I don't really have time to sit and wait for that to dry, so I'm just going to use this. I'll take it off the paper towel. I use the paper towel to catch the drips. Now I'm having this facing me this way, this colour, so I need to glue it on the back here. There is a kind of right way up and a wrong way up for these. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just getting it lined up as best I can, so I don't see any bits overlapping the front. That looks good. Just make sure it's right at the edge, because once you've cut it, you'll realise that you'll see that there's one sheet that gets cut is just templates for cutting photographs. To, you know, if you were cutting them to give to somebody or giving it to somebody to cut their own. Right, that looks fine. And I'm just going to take a roller and I'm just going to roll gently over it on both sides, just to make sure it's properly stuck down. And I'm going to set that to the side under a book with the rest of them, just so that it doesn't warp. It gets glued down anyway, but it's much easier if it's completely straight. And I'll show you another couple of the parts. So you've got two of these, I don't know what you want to call them, envelopes I suppose. Basically just fold them over, quite simply. And I've also inked the edges of these. So I've inked the edges first, I folded it over, it would go that way. And then I've inked so the bits that you would see as well, just to give it distressed corners. I think it looks quite nice seeing the distressed corners. And then what we're going to do is glue these together. I won't show you doing that. And I'm going to use Collall glue for this, because they're, you know, they will pop up, I think, if you don't use a really strong glue. And I'm going to hold them in place. I'll sort of clamp them in place, ready to be glued on to the main structure. So that you've got two of them. You've also got this one here. This is just a little pocket, quite simply. So again, just fold it along the folds. And again, I inked the edges all the way around like that. And again, you'll just glue that together there, whatever way around you want to do it. I think it's easier to do it kind of that way. So the bottom and the inside. Again, 6.5 dozen how you do it. And that, again, that just gets glued on, and I'll show you that later on. You've also got all these little parts here. These form corners. You maybe see the green ones against the green mat. I've got white ones here as well. They just form corner holders for photographs. Sort of very simple. And again, you've got these that form corner holders for photographs as well. You've got a few square parts, just keep them to the side just now. You've then got this part here, which is the possibly slightly over-engineered box that goes in the centre. So again, you fold round all the folds, and it basically goes together like this. Keep these flaps up. I won't glue it just now. I'm going to stop the camera whilst I glue everything together, and I'll come back and show you how to fit it all together. So you just glue the flap in here like so. And then once that's glued, you glue these flaps down. Now the reason I've done it this way, A, it holds the joint together, but it also makes the box a lot stronger. Okay, that'll all be glued down there. It doesn't matter that this bit isn't glued yet, because that actually gets glued to the base of the box once it's all put together, and that holds it all in place, which is nice and easy. And then the lids, you may have a slightly hard time with the lids, because honestly they can be a bit fiddly. But again, fold over the lines. I hope you can see that with the white card. But essentially, to put the lids together, you have to put these kind of double fold as well. And again, it's for strength, nicer finish. It stops it, warping once it's made. Because the ones I've made some 3 years ago now, they're actually still fine because they've been this double folded. So it is perhaps slightly over-engineered. But I'll fold this flap out the way just now, just so we can see properly. Let's fold it back the way. So what you wanted to do, you've got two sides with these small flaps. So you kind of lift them up first, and you would glue them in place to the end. Hopefully you can see that. And then this folds over, which holds that in place. You do the same at the other side. Glue that, pin it, paper clips, clothespins, something like that, and then you just fold these ones in. And that's a really strong lid. Now there's two of them, because you've got one for the main box and you've got one for the small box that goes on the inside. And that's pretty much all the parts. Very easy to put together after this, but I just need to remind myself which bit goes where, which is why I'm going to pause the video and come back in a second. So I will see you shortly. Okay guys, welcome back. So whilst I had the camera off, I was busy gluing everything together that needed to be glued together. And I forgot to mention, there is a square that goes inside the lid, which you can see I've glued in there. Just gives it a little bit of extra strength, especially if you're going to be putting anything on top of the box, which I've done in the past. I won't be with this one. Same with the small box, you can do the same. There's plenty of little squares that you could use inside if you need to, if you're putting something on top of it. Like I say, up to yourself. So as you can see, I've glued everything together. So you can see the box, the inside box, which sits nicely with the lid, and it's fairly sturdy. I've also decided the positioning of everything. You can do it whatever way you want. I try and have everything symmetrical as best I can. There isn't a specific way of doing everything, I will say. It's really up to yourself. What I would say is, though, the thicker items, put them on the single flaps rather than the bits that fold over. Otherwise the box won't sit properly. So it's just a case of gluing all these parts on. I'm not going to let you watch me glue all these bits on. I'll pause the video again whilst I glue it, but I'll just explain a couple of things. So the frames themselves, just make sure when you glue them, if you can see that there, that the open part is at the top there, so that you can slide the photo in and out. So just be aware of that. Obviously there's quite a few. So I'll just show you quickly each layer, if you like. So that's the outer layer, which will all fold in. You then got the center layer, which I've put 4 frames on, and just these little corner pieces that will go in this flaps here, and you can just slide a small photograph in or something like that. I'll put that to the side again. And then the inside layer, the inner layer, which will have these 2 pockets and just these corner pieces that will go on here, and that allows a photograph to be sort of placed in there. When you're gluing these, just take care to glue just on the edges, enough so that it holds, but not too much that you won't be able to slide a photograph in. And yeah, just kind of be careful with that. I could also explain as well, when gluing the lids together, sorry I'm jumping about a bit here, I just used the glue stick again. I was going to use colloid glue, but it takes too long to dry, to be honest. When you're gluing them, I find a plastic ruler is perfect for pressing it down, and it just makes, it kind of spreads the glue out a little bit. I don't use the glue sparingly at all, and it just helps to keep it stuck, and it will be stuck for a long time. It's permanent glue I'm using. So just to kind of explain that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to pause the video again just now, and I'm going to start gluing all the pieces on, and then I'll come back to glue it all together, and then we'll see the finished box, hopefully. Okay, that's me back again. So we're now going to glue this together. So as you can see, I've glued all the little bits on. Hopefully you can see all that there. You'll notice that these corner pieces, I've put them sort of symmetrically. So you get the centre, towards the centre, and then towards the outside corners. And hopefully I've got all these on the right way round, so you can see there, hopefully, that that's not glued, so you can slide the photograph in there, or whatever you want to slide in there. If we're putting them together, obviously you've got your base layer here. For the middle one, if you put it on so that these small flaps are opposite to the picture frames, and the reason is, if I can try and explain, this will fold up like this. These will fold in like that and then fold up. Actually no, they'll go in like that. All will become apparent, hopefully. It won't make any difference if you do it the other way around, to be honest. I just think it maybe looks a little bit better, I suppose. So anyway, for gluing, all we're going to do is turn this over. I'll get my trusty glue stick again. You're actually going to see me gluing now, if I would open the right end. So I'm just going to use quite a lot of glue, because I don't want it to fall to bits. Get it right up to the edge as much as I can. The good thing with this glue, it doesn't sort of warp the paper at all, it doesn't make it go wrinkly or anything like that. And we'll just get this lined up again as best as we can. It's quite important to get this centred. Depending on the glue that you use, you should have the ability to move it around slightly until it dries. Just make sure that's lined up. Just keep checking before we press it down. I think we're good there. So I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm just going to push that down. And you'll have to excuse the traffic noise. This house is right next to the road and it can be quite noisy, especially at this time on a Saturday night. It's around about tea time. Okay, so that's the middle one. And then the inside one, again the same. This one doesn't matter so much about what way round you do it. I would do it so that these pockets are on the sides without the extra flaps. Just my preference. So again, we're going to do the same, turn it over, and we're going to apply a liberal amount of glue. Try and get it as close to the edges as you can, corners especially, because that's when it would start to lift if you don't get it to the edges. I'm sure you can see plenty of glue on there. Again, we'll just fold this up slightly. Hopefully you can see past my head. So forgive me if my head is in the way at all here. I think we're good there. So you can see it's kind of taken shape now. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to set something on here to weigh it down just for 10 minutes, just to let the glue set a little bit. I'll stop recording, and then I'll come back and we'll sort of pop the rest of it together. But just to explain, obviously the box in the centre just gets glued in there. Like I said, I'm not going to glue that just yet because I want to weigh something down on it first, and just whilst the glue dries a little bit. So I will stop recording. I will come back in 5 minutes for me. It'll be 3 seconds for you guys. So I'll see you shortly. Okay, and we're back again. So I've obviously folded this up. I'm just going to unfold it just to let you see that it's all now put together nicely. First, I've got to put the centre lid on. So I've got the box glued into the middle. I sat a weight on it just to hold it in place till the glue dried. I'm going to sit the lid on just now. So as you can see, I've also the blue card, which is in the design as well, on Design Space. This is your templates for cutting out photographs so that they fit properly. And I just tend to place them in. And if I show you on one here, this one here, you'll see it slides out and in easily. What I tend to do if I'm giving this to somebody to put their own photographs in, I'll just draw an arrow to show what direction to push it in and just say to them, push it in that direction rather than trying to lift it out or anything like that. And it's very easy to slide a photograph in. I cut it out, sort of relatively thick card, which is no thicker or thinner than photograph paper. So they'll be absolutely fine to pop these in. There's a couple of bits of card that cut out as well that just fit into the little pocket here. If you want to cut more of them, absolutely fine. But there's no need to cut more than one template really. They can just cut 4 or 5 photographs to fit in that little pocket. The little envelope pocket, I haven't cut templates for that. I don't imagine you might put photographs in there. You might put something else, I don't know, any other memory from whatever photographs you're putting in. And the little box in the middle is for whatever, some chocolates, I don't know, something like that. To fold it up, there isn't really a right or wrong way, but you would fold up the centre first, which I will do carefully, and then the middle one, folding in the flaps. So the flaps there are overlapping the side. That just helps hold it all together. And then this one, you want the flaps around the box like that. Again, just helps hold everything together. In hindsight, I should have put these envelopes here and the frames here, and it'll become apparent in a second, but hey ho. You'd think I'd not made one of these before. It has been a while though, in my defence. And then fold this up at the end like that. So as you can see, it's kind of pushing out because of that envelope in there, but it's absolutely fine. And pop the lid on. Job done. So as you can see, the envelope's pushing this panel out a little bit, which is very annoying actually, but the glue's now dry so I can't do anything about it. So if I just sort of reiterate that, put your envelope in here instead of there, swap them about, and then it'll sit a lot better. Put the lid back on, and that's it, done. If I show you what I did before, which is very similar. I put ribbons over it as well, if you can see that there. I'm not going to do that with this tartan one. I'm just going to leave it as it is. This one had a lot of sort of manual punches done on it as well, if you can see that little star there. It wasn't all done in the Cricut. I think this was one of the trial runs that I did one time, just to see that everything worked. But actually this one that I have glued properly, it kind of bulges in the edges there as well. So it's fine. And I made this one probably 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. It's still going strong. It's been in and out of storage and bashed about, and it's still all holding, which is good. That's encouraging. So this one should be the same. Let's pop that lid back on there. So yeah, that's it. Good to go. Thank you guys.